make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
Embiid is an ungodly talent that I don't think the NBA has really ever seen.
Thanks for tuning back to the Whistlethrowers podcast. This is Jack Mubarak, joined by
Jack Slaymaker.
And we got a lot to talk about today. Let's first start off with the NFL. Let's start with the OT game, the Minnesota and Bills game, not the Packers and Cowboys game. Okay, Aidan, the floor is yours.
All right, well, let's see, about 10, 11 weeks ago or so, I said the Vikings had a good chance of winning the NFC. I was told that this was a asinine, crazy pick. This would never happen. That the three teams that would do better were the Bucks, the Rams. Maybe those were the only two, but oh no, I saw the Packers actually as well by a certain someone here. Also had a good chance of winning this division. Or the entire conference, my bad. And well, look at it now. The Vikings are 8-1 and tied with the Eagles for first in the NFC. It's not like anyone saw this coming or anything, except me.
All right, fine. I'll give you your flowers. Fine.
First of all, the next thing that I'll say is that the other team that I picked to win the AFC was the Bills. Now, the Bills are third in the AFC East, and the Vikings are looking like the much better team out of those two. This is what I said about the Vikings, that they had a really good running back. The offense was going to open up amazingly this year with a new head coach, which it has, and that Kirk Cousins was just enough to keep the Vikings in the top of the NFC, which he has. So everything I said that was going to happen just happened. So it's up to you guys now. You guys have the floor. You can say whatever you want.
All right, I did underestimate them a little bit. I mean, I knew Justin Jefferson was going to have a great... I didn't think they were going to be bad. I thought they were going to make the playoffs, wild card. But, okay, they got the division. I don't really know what to say. I didn't think the Packers were going to come out as bad in the first 10 games as they did. But things are looking better for them now in my eyes. But the division is out of the question for them at this point. I think what I really doubted was their defense. And I didn't think they were, bottom of the pack. But, I thought they were, middle tier. And, they'd, kind of keep the opposing teams, in games because they won't be able to get key stops. But that hasn't really been the case. They've been getting enough stops to the point where they can go 8-1. I mean, they're 8-1.
Yeah, I mean, really, for their defense, the Bills game was sort of an outlier because they haven't really played that bad in any of the games. Even the Eagles game, which is their only loss on the schedule. Yeah, they let up 24, but it was when you look at the entire game, it really wasn't that bad, in terms of
They were two terrible red zone plays away from tying that game.
Yeah, right. So, the Vikings were hanging in there for their loss. And, that's something that for the Eagles we want to look at as a positive, obviously, with our loss. We were in it and we just have to clean up some of our mistakes to win that game. And that's the same thing with the Vikings. Even though 24-7 is sort of a big score, big deficit, sort of, it was just, like Aidan said, a couple plays that they needed to fix to win that game. And the Bills has really been their biggest test since the Eagles. And they really met the expectations for it, and they cleaned up the mistakes that they made in the Eagles game. Their offense was able to stay on the field, converting a couple of key third downs. Obviously, the big one was the Jefferson. That was a fourth down, but that's still a conversion that you needed to make that they were able to convert on. And their defense made some plays when they needed to. You're not going to hold a Josh Allen offense to under 20 points. So, I mean, you can, but it's very, very unlikely. So, giving up 30 isn't necessarily good, but they did make the plays, even though the fumble obviously at the end of the game was a Josh Allen mistake that they capitalized on. They were able to make 2 interceptions, obviously Peterson, that were super huge, and those were turning points in the game. Obviously, the one sealed it. Their defense fixed some of the things that they didn't do in the Eagles game too. So really an all-around great game, and that was the game that put them certifiably on the map, in contention.
Which I also want to say it's just so stupid that it took till this game for fans and analysts to say, "Oh, they're actually for real."
Mm-hmm.
Because people were saying the same thing about the Eagles. Oh, they're 8-0. Who have they played? They're not really a real team. If you are 8-0, if you are 7-1 this year with how competitive the league has been, you are clearly a top tier team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas City's only 7-2.
Yeah, and they lost to Indianapolis, so.
Right. The league, like, yes, people are saying that the league is mid or boring because every team is around 500. That tells me that it's a competitive year this year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That only the top teams, the top tier teams, are going to have records above everyone else.
I would take that instead of like two guys being like
Yeah.
two teams being 8-0 and other teams being like 2-8. Like
Right,
it's just
yeah, I
not
agree with
fun
you.
to
Yeah.
watch. But
Yeah.
it's competitive and we haven't seen it in a while, so
Yeah.
I want to keep seeing it.
Yeah, and that's why I think the four best teams right now, and I've been saying this, are the Chiefs, Giants, the Bills were, if I was going to do top five, the Bills would have been up there. They're not anymore. But it would have been Bills, Giants, Vikings, Eagles, Chiefs.
Was that in order, or were you just listing?
I'm just listing the top five teams I would have had. They're also the top teams by record as well.
Mm-hmm.
But those were the five teams that had the best record, that looked the best before this week. I think the Bills dropped off now just because of that loss. The fact that the Dolphins are looking really good.
Yeah.
The Jets could have first place in that division by next week, which
Right.
is wild.
Yeah. And their defense is carrying them right now. You know, they're not really getting good quarterback play at all.
No.
And that defense is really, really stepping up.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson had his first 300-yard game in his NFL career this like 2
But
weeks
dude,
ago.
I mean, you could go through a couple of their wins where he has like 100 passing yards.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
he's not a passer by any stretch of the
Yeah.
imagination, but
Yeah. That's
they're doing enough.
Yeah, that's good for him though.
Mhm.
Everyone wants him to be really good
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
sorry, there you go.
Nah, you're good. Go ahead.
The other thing I'm going to add about this game, Justin Jefferson to me is now the top wide receiver in the league, by far.
It's actually interesting you brought it up because it was going to be the next thing we did, because we did a poll saying if you guys think Justin Jefferson's the best in the league, and it was basically a resounding yes from everyone.
I can't think, like, DeAndre Hopkins, if he hadn't got suspended, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only other guy that I think is that close.
The-
This dude is unbelievable.
I think it's him and Tyreek on 1-2. I think Jefferson 1, Tyreek 2, and probably Cooper
That's
Kupp
fair.
would be my first guy third. But
You
I
see-
think those two are on a different level than everyone.
Yeah, the way I look at it is if I have to pick one receiver like moving forward, it's obviously him. I can't really see the argument for anyone else.
Yeah.
To be honest, but
because you're getting everything, a
Yeah.
young superstar, and like the age is the key there. You know.
yeah, like even like looking past age, like the talent is just
Yeah.
like, I know you were saying how Kirk Cousins is like better than advertised, but like if he had someone else, he'd make him look way better probably.
Yeah,
that's-
and Kirk has been playing really well.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, Kirk has quietly played well the last 2 or 3 years there too.
Yeah,
But-
hasn't been bad for a while.
Yeah, it was just like, it's just one game can turn an entire narrative on you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
one snap, one play can change everything. Down the stretch, Kirk has been shaky the last couple of years, and that's why people have like labeled him like that, you know?
It's coincidentally been like against like big teams.
Yeah,
big
no,
teams,
yeah,
but-
that's what it is. And it's like, you can't just ignore everything else. Like, he's been
Yeah.
a top 15 QB, no
Mhm.
question. But he's
But-
been borderline top 10.
Yeah.
Borderline.
Yeah,
Not
I
top
think
10,
he's,
but like
he's better
there.
than Derek Carr at this point.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
he's-
Derek Carr's fallen off a cliff, it looks like.
yeah.
I don't know how much of that is due to coaching because, I mean, you have Devontae Adams at the end of the day.
And Renfro.
Right.
And Waller.
Well, those two were out last week, so,
Yeah.
I mean, but still, yeah. The whole year, you pretty much had them. Well, Waller has been out.
Mhm.
But, and
But
Renfro actually missed time. So that does hurt them. But
yeah,
still, you have Adams.
they're calling it quits though this year. They're just saying
yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
Back to my point, like I was saying, obviously I would pick Jefferson over any receiver in this league.
Mhm.
But I think he took one or two too many weeks off. Like he did get kind of shut down a couple games this year.
Yeah.
And I would give Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill the better year so far this year. but-
Maybe that. They've maybe had a better year, but like if you have to go the player.
Yeah,
The
player
player
it's
itself,
Jefferson,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
the year
Yeah, I
it's
understand
one of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but and you mentioned that it would be hard to take anyone over him. Well, the team that lost last night could have used him.
Yep, that's for sure.
And
Mm-hmm.
I quickly before we go to the Eagles game, because there was so much that went wrong with that, but the fact that the city of Philadelphia has forgiven, I'm going to put that in quotes, Howie Roseman for that pick specifically is ridiculous. I don't care what Howie Roseman has done throughout his entire career after that. I don't care if he wins 3 Super Bowls for the Eagles. The fact that he picked a glorified punt returner over the guy that was clearly going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league as a rookie, and he has completely blown that out of the water. Like, he's become so much better than anyone thought he was going to be, but Jefferson was so much better than Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
So much. That pick will never make sense to me, and the fact that everyone is so willing to move on to that is ridiculous.
Yeah. I have to say this, though. Like, everything you said is right. Like, how we should never be forgiven for that. But, and that, frankly, that video of the Eagles fans saying that he forgave Howie for the Jefferson thing, and then Howie, like, made that remark, that comment to him. It
What
was
did he
funny.
say?
He was just like, I got you an effing superstar team or something. I forget. Yeah, I got you a Super Bowl. I don't know. It was like, it was funny. It was just joking, but still, like, you know, he actually believes that, and it's kind of like, all right, dude, smell on yourself a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, there were 3 other receivers taken before Reagor was in that draft class, and the one of them isn't even in the league anymore. And Judy, honestly, could you really say Judy has done that much more than Reagor? Like, what has Judy done, to be honest?
Nothing really.
I mean,
Not much, although, to be fair, who was his quarterback's been?
yeah, true, yeah.
I think Drew Lock is overhated. That may be a hot take, but I think he's not as bad as advertised.
Maybe.
He's not, but the thing is, he was still developing with that. I mean, you have a developing quarterback. It's hard for a wide receiver to judge a wide receiver on whether he's good or bad when you're seeing a quarterback that's still learning the league.
True, but you are seeing Broncos fans like saying that Drew Lock may have been a better situation for them than Russell Wilson is now and moving forward because they're like checkmated right now.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
I actually 100% agree with that, and that's my point. Is I think if Drew Lock had developed into a quarterback and that he'd not been traded, Judy might have had much better stats this year, and we wouldn't be saying that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
But going back to the Eagles game, that was just. I understand it was a close loss. I understand you're not going to go undefeated. They just got outplayed.
Yeah, they got dominated, to be honest.
They got dominated, and you can blame the refs. That face mask wasn't called was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The late hit that wasn't a late hit was ridiculous.
Yeah.
However, they couldn't stop the Commanders on third down at all. One of the worst teams converting on third down percentage the entire season, and consistently let them bail themselves out.
Yep. Yeah, no, it just looked like they got completely outcoached, outplayed, on every facet of the game. I mean, you look at those penalties, and they were such huge turning points. They really were. The opportunities were still there, even though the Goddard face mask happened, which was completely ridiculous, absolutely absurd. That was not called. Completely mind-boggling. The guy's looking right at it, the back judge, looking right at it. However, you still had an opportunity after that. Quez Watkins falls down and then fumbles the ball in that deep ball. And you had opportunities even before the Goddard play. The A.J. Brown dropping that pass that leads to the interception. Kind of a freak play, but still, I mean, when the ball is in your 2 hands, you have to catch the ball, especially when you're getting paid $100 million. Not blaming him for the loss, but I'm just saying that those plays have to be made to win games. And yeah, the Eagles didn't make those plays today, which they have been making them for the past 8 games. Yeah, last night they didn't make them. That's why they lost. And yeah, they had a couple terrible penalties too. They were driving on one drive in the second quarter, which the second quarter they have normally dominated. They were horrible in the second quarter. That was probably their worst quarter of the game. But they're driving, and Dickerson has a holding penalty that pushes them back 10 yards. It's a drive killer. And then the most obvious play and one of the most controversial plays of the game, because obviously the most controversial one was the face mask, but the Brandon Graham late hit. I mean, by the rule book, it was a penalty, but I mean, are we serious? That we're playing football, right? That should never be a penalty in football. That should just never be a penalty in football. I know it's a quarterback. I know he gave himself up, but that was just not aggressive at all. There was no real malintent behind that. And we're playing football. That should never, ever, ever, ever be a penalty in football. I don't care what anyone says. That should never be a penalty in football. However, by the letter of the law, it was a penalty. And frankly, it was just a stupid play by Brandon Graham. That was really dumb. He had time to see that the quarterback gave himself up, and he shouldn't have done it. And those are plays that are going to lose you games. So the Eagles made the plays that were going to lose them games, and yeah, that's why they lost.
So my take is a little bit different. I don't want to shit on the refs at all, because in the first half, it was all favored.
Pause though, they were absolutely atrocious.
Okay, but in the first half, it was all Philly. It was Washington versus the refs, whether we want to admit it or not. And we took ourselves out of this game. I noticed going in to halftime, Sanders had 2 carries the whole half. What did that do last year? We were not as good last year, and that was the main theme. We wouldn't feed Sanders, and it's not like they were shutting him down because they gave him 2 chances and a half. You can't say that it wasn't working for you.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the 1 carry went for 7 yards. So
sounds about right. I mean, you can't what I'm saying is, you gotta, run Sanders. You know what happens when you don't run Sanders. It's not gonna help the team.
It's not even that you just Sanders. You just have to run the ball. You have to establish a ground game. And, that's what's been our bread and butter for the offense. I'm not sure why they went away from it. I know Washington is good at stopping the run, but you have to play to your strength.
Yeah.
The second you start letting the defense dictate the game, you're already losing. Mm-hmm. So that was just a very poor game plan and very idiotic game plan.
But yeah, I also want to circle back to the Quez catch and fumble, because with that much time left on the clock in the fourth quarter, and you do something like that, and you're already down 5 at that point.
Yeah,
you don't deserve to win the game. I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, but still, you have the opportunity. So
you do, but I get they missed the face mask, but the Brandon Graham hit.
Yeah. Just dumb. It's
dumb. I mean, I don't agree with the rules, but I like how they rewarded it, because Brandon Graham should not have done it.
Yeah, I'm saying that it's dumb on Brandon Graham. Mm-hmm. That's just
he could have twirled out of the way.
Yeah, and he's a veteran player. You just can't make that mistake, dude. You have to be smarter than that.
But I'm really happy it happened now.
Yes. All right, get into this point. This is a good point.
Week 12 or something against the Packers.
Right. Or just playoffs, when you get to the playoffs, now you got that where a team that's going to be, that you're favored on, is coming into your building in a primetime game, and you have to be super attentive, and you can't have those hiccups and let-ups like they had last night. So yeah, I agree with you. It's better to get this game out of the way so that you can, when you're going into the playoffs, you're like, all right, let's look back to that game and what we did wrong, and let's make sure, so that it's fresh in your mind that these are the things you have to do in order to win the game.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I want to forewarn Eagles fans that I think that the next 4 or 5 weeks are going to be really tough. I mean, you've seen it in the past with teams that went undefeated this far in the stretch, like the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of years ago, went 11-0, what they finished
11-6.
Yeah. And 49ers, same story. I'm not discrediting our start due to an easy schedule, but we did have an easy schedule.
Yeah,
and
we did. Yeah.
When we play tougher teams like the Titans, even though I don't think they're that tough, or the Packers, who are gonna be on an upward momentum, we could go on a losing streak.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It wouldn't be hard.
Yeah, I could see them going 2-2 these next 4 games.
Well, they got Packers,
Colts, Packers, Titans, Giants.
I could see 1-3. I think the Giants are going to beat us.
I could see 1-3. I could see it, but I don't think they will.
We'll have to see.
Here's something interesting that I saw from this week from on the team that you mentioned that the Eagles will be playing to is the Titans. Just because of the fact they still didn't play that well, and they were still going to win. Granted, it was against the Broncos, so it wasn't like a great win, but it just shows that they're one of those teams that is just going to keep fighting, no matter what. And the other thing, too, is that Denver's defense is still very, very good this year, and they still won despite shutting Derrick Henry down. Do you really have faith, after watching the Eagles game last night, that they can shut down Derrick Henry?
No.
I don't.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, like, if your offense isn't putting up numbers, that Titans will score on you. They're going to feed Henry all they can.
I'm starting him that week.
I don't even think Tannehill's 100%. He still threw 2 touchdowns and 255 yards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can't really count out any team in the NFL, honestly. And, like, I forgot about the Titans. Like, I remember, like, last time we were talking about them, and we were kind of speculating a Jaguars home playoff game, and now they're, like, 6-2 or something. 6-3.
Yeah.
And that just happened in the blink of an eye. Like, they're back to, like, where they've been the last couple of years.
Yeah, it definitely took them a week or two to hit their stride, for sure. It's crazy. It's crazy on the flip side of that, though, the Jaguars, how far they've fallen, because they were, 2-2 to start. They were 2-1, I know, going into the Eagles game, week 4. So, yeah, 2-2 in the first 4, and they looked like pretty good. And I'm not saying they don't look good, but I just thought they'd be better than they are now. What do they have, 4 wins or 3 wins? 3-7, yeah. It's like, I think they're better than their record.
Yeah, they are, for sure, and Lawrence is, like, coming into his own, finally. Yeah. Oh, yeah, thanks for dropping him.
Yeah, for sure. I don't need him. I have Hurts.
But, yeah, let's transition into the other overtime game this week. Mm-hmm. Cowboys lost to the Packers in an OT thriller. I think this could be the turning point. I think this is where Rodgers spells out relax, and they just make a run for the playoffs. But they do have a tough schedule ahead. I'm not saying the Rams are tough, but they're not easy.
Right, yeah.
And no team in that league, in that division's easy anymore. Like, I wouldn't even say the Bears are easy.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't
fight
either.
Against every single opponent they play.
And obviously the Lions aren't easy, you know.
No.
They're way better than their record.
Yeah.
Like, you say this could be a turnaround. I don't see any game left on their schedule that I say is a definite win.
Right.
Yeah. Can you read it back to me?
Just because at that point, I feel like that they'll be so out of it that they'll just bench all their starters.
Yeah.
But the Titans, I don't see that as necessarily a win. Eagles, they're in Philly. I don't see that necessarily as a win. Chicago, maybe. Rams, maybe. Dolphins and Vikings, and then the Lions.
Yeah, those are all tough games.
Yeah.
It's just that the issue is they dug themselves in such a hole playing teams that would be seen as relatively easier teams. I mean, in that 5-week losing streak, you lost to the Lions, Washington, and the Jets.
Yeah.
And I know the Jets have been playing much better, and I know that Washington just beat the Eagles, but still, those are games that if you know that your schedule is this hard down the stretch, you need to win these games.
Yep. And, like, looking at that Lions game, it was, like, in your hands, too. You had 2 trips inside the 5 that Rodgers threw picks on. So you were right there and you had the game. And it's like, that's when, in December, if you're missing out on the playoffs, those are games you look back on and say, like, you just should have had that. And that's where you rip your hair out a little bit. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. And they are, 4-6 now after the win?
They are.
That's... Yeah. You are way behind the 8 ball at this point, especially with a team like Washington, who's now hitting their stride too. They're a game ahead of you, and they have a tiebreaker on you.
Washington owns the tiebreaker now, so if you finish with the same record, you're behind them.
Yep. So you really need to. You can't have any slip ups the next couple weeks, and you're not playing any easy teams. It doesn't get easy one bit. It never gets easy, and. Yeah. Even though for the Bears and Lions, maybe for a team outside of the NFC North, might look at that game and say, okay, we can kind of breathe easy for that one. The Packers can't. That's a divisional game, and those teams have been playing really tough football this entire season. Both teams are better than their record. yeah, the Packers cannot breathe easy for those games. Those are both games that they're going to have to struggle for. And this is going to be a grueling stretch for that team.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely.
Well, us as Eagles fans, we can't criticize Rodgers this week because he beat the Cowboys, so
We beat
happy
him.
about that.
He played. I mean, he didn't play well at the beginning. I mean, he just in the regular season, I can't really say because he never really does this in the playoffs. But when it comes to a clutch situation, he just always seems to be able to win in these very tight overtime games.
Yeah, It's like that classic meme from the Packers fan at the Cowboys game where he's like, LMAO, they're celebrating with 1:13 left in the fourth. Like, it's just, Rodgers gets the drive in the fourth and you're like, he's going to score here, Even though they're not good this year, you were kind of like, I feel it coming.
It's always the Cowboys, too.
I know,
He just
it's
has
either
to
them or the
remember.
Bears,
But
Ironically, that meme was from a playoff game that the Packers won in an overtime. So
Yeah, I remember that one. That was the...
Christian Watson had 3 touchdowns, too.
Yeah, he had a really good game. And it was cool to see that, like, where he had the 2 early drops.
Yeah.
And then he scores the touchdown, the first one, which was just a really good catch. Like, Rodgers is always going to give you a perfect ball on a one-on-one on the outside hash. And, of course, he did. And Watson made a really good play on it. So that I was, like, really impressed from that game from him. I picked him up in fantasy just because I had to pick up a kicker for Tucker on the bye. So I was just like, screw it. Like, I'm dropping this kicker. I don't need him. So I picked up Watson, or at least I'm trying to, because honestly, that's pretty promising. And it could be a potential sleeper flex, these couple weeks, like, especially a team like you, Jack, where you're like fighting for the playoffs in fantasy and you need just a guy who can break out for a week. Watson could be that option. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's either going to be him or Lazard. I'm picking Lazard over him personally.
He's a more reliable option, but like Watson, I think, has more of a chance to have a game like that where he goes for 3 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Lazard had the one against Detroit where he had 2, right? He had a good game, but I mean, he still only had like 4 or 5 catches on the 2 touchdown games, so it's like he didn't have the volume.
Yeah, no, he doesn't get good volume, but he'll get like a 40-yard reception and like a touchdown.
Yeah, and I think it shows too, like when Rodgers has a connection with one of those like unsung receivers, kind of, he goes to that like all game, like the Dobbs game he had earlier in the year against freaking New England. And then this game he gets Christian Watson a couple times, and then he just gets that rhythm with that guy. So Rodgers likes doing that.
Yeah, I told Brennan though today, don't let me get in the playoffs because I was 2-5 and now I'm 5-5.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, all right, you're coming. But I mean, still, my team is at 1,400 points, and not another team at 30.
Yeah, you got a couple of guys out though. I wasn't sad hearing your guys win.
Come on, that's so crap. I'm like steamrolling this league, and now Mike Williams and Kupp are out. I'm screwed, dude.
And Renfro.
I don't really care. Renfro hasn't done anything for me all year. He's been the worst.
Wait, is Mike Williams going to play, though? I saw his questionable.
I don't know. Sometimes it does that where it's like he's questionable and projected for points, and then he doesn't end up playing. So, I don't know. Right now, he's supposed to play.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think if I beat you and I just don't lose the week after, I think I secured a spot.
Okay. My spot's already secured. I'm already in.
Yeah, you clinched. Brennan and Blake just have me by like 30 points for. So
okay, yeah, you could do it.
Yeah, I really want to do it so bad. I need a 3-peat.
Yeah,
but don't let me.
We'll see.
As far as the NFL goes, I think we hit all the main games. Is there anything?
We did, but there's a couple interesting storylines coming up. So here's one. It's now going to be week 11. Do you guys remember what that means?
No.
Deshaun Watson's coming back.
Oh yeah, he's practicing.
The Browns right now are 3-6. Is there? And this is what was sort of the thought was that if we're set like decently enough, the Browns could be in somewhat of a spot for a wild card. It definitely is going to be a tough battle from here on out. But Dave, again, we talked about this on an episode before about whether or not Deshaun Watson should be playing. My feelings have already been put out about this. I'm just going to talk from a purely football aspect. Having Watson back could make the Browns a sneaky team for a wild card spot. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I could see it, but
It could happen.
they are in like a really deep hole, and like they're obviously not going to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
But
They're 2 wins behind that seventh wild card. So the Patriots have 5 wins. They're sitting at 5-4 in it. And then the Browns are in the 11th seed at 3-6. So it's possible.
Their schedule's not that crazy.
Yeah. They
Like,
pull it
you've
up.
got the Bills and Tampa Bay, Miami, Buffalo, Tampa Bay coming up. That's going to be tough. But if you go with one of those, then you got Houston, Cincinnati, Baltimore, New Orleans, Washington, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
yeah, it's an easy
not
finish.
A crazy, like they would still be 8 and 9 if they lose those 3 and then win out after the Bucs game, and that probably wouldn't be enough. But if they win 1, they could be 9 and 8.
Yeah. Right.
It's very possible, but like, do you think the missed time is going to like take a step or 2 away from his game, at least to start off with?
Maybe. But I don't know. He's like a good enough player where I feel like he could just come back from that and keep firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. How do you think fans are going to treat him though?
Well, I hope he gets booed out of every stadium he's in. I mean,
Yeah, except Cleveland, because apparently they're really supporting him. If anyone saw the pictures and videos during preseason.
yeah, right. If they cheer him, that's ridiculous.
I mean, did the Eagles fans cheer Vic though when he came back? I mean,
Well, I feel like that's a little different because he like actually.
Vic was in prison for
Yeah, Vic served a sentence and like got a punishment, so he did his time, and then like he ended up becoming a better person after that. Like he does a bunch of charity work for animal shelters nowadays. So like, I think Vic deserves a standing ovation. Like a guy like Vic is someone you want to be, but like a guy like Watson, I mean, he doesn't take any accountability for his actions, which Vic does, and he doesn't grow at all as a person. So Vic grew.
The other thing about Vic too is that when he was brought in, he was the backup. Like he definitely wasn't replacing McNabb in 2009. It was only after McNabb left in 2010 that Vic stepped in. So fans already had like a year to process that this was probably going to happen.
Yeah,
And even in 2010, what was his name?
Kevin Cobb.
Kevin Cobb, that's right. Kevin Cobb was the starter until he got hurt against the Packers, and then Vic came in.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that the Eagles were signing Vic to be the permanent starter.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Browns paid Watson all this money to be the franchise quarterback for the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's really a really dark spot on their franchise and their fan base, to be honest.
yeah, and this is like a kind of a reach, but it kind of just shows me that like no matter what you do, like especially in the NFL, like you come back. Like honestly, I think if Henry Ruggs skated all Chargers, like he'd be playing the next season, and that's like insane for me to think about.
Yeah,
but
I saw him training, so like I think that he's working on an NFL comeback. I honestly wouldn't mind.
really,
I mean, it's not like that's not like a huge character flaw, I don't think. Like, I mean, he made a terrible mistake, but like, again, if you go to jail and like serve your time, then I don't think that there's much to complain about in that sense.
he's on like limited house arrest though. Like he's not like
Still though, I
doing,
mean,
like,
he's still jobless and like, yeah.
There's going to be like a trial for him, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know he's on house arrest for right now.
yeah,
That's
there.
not his official punishment, right?
No, it got dismissed 6 times, like his court case. So
Yeah.
that's what's taking so long. But February 1st, he's going to trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Ruggs, like, you could say you want him back. I don't see how he gets anywhere, like, the minimum maybe 5 years. I'm thinking like 10 to 15. That was, not only was it stupid, but just the result of what he did, he deserves, I really wouldn't care if he went to jail for longer than that, honestly.
Yeah, I can't really argue against it.
Yeah, for real.
When it comes to that sort of thing, but still.
Yeah, and like, I think he's getting off because he's an athlete too. You know.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's
I
like,
feel like a normal person this wouldn't happen for them.
oh no, I just feel bad for the family. Like, imagine like
Yeah.
him like getting cheered into a stadium like after he kills your daughter.
Yeah.
Like,
The other thing that I want to touch on quickly was the Raiders, kind of ironically we're bringing up, the Raiders and the Colts game, because there is a little bit of a storyline there as well, if you want to get into that.
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so Jeff Saturday, longtime Colts center, Hall of Famer, All-Pro, awesome dude, had never coached above high school level and gets hired to be the Colts head coach. And he beats Josh McDaniels, who had only been a head coach once before, got fired, went back to the Patriots, and then got his second head coaching job this year and has done a terrible job. This game, I don't know, to me just proved that NFL franchises really don't care who their coaches are, at least the ones that don't feel like
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, like, seeing the Colts kind of implode because, like, for years they've just been saying they're a quarterback away from being a dynasty, and, like,
Yeah.
they tried it out multiple times, and that's just obviously not the case.
Yeah, and I think it starts at the top. Like, I think that's an Irsay issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Jeff Saturday was literally on NFL Live until last week.
Yeah,
so.
and like, here's the thing. I don't necessarily think I don't think it's Jeff Saturday that's the problem. Like, I think that he's a good option. I think it's the timing and the context behind the Saturday signing, or hiring, I should say. Because the timing is poor because you just fired your coach mid-season and then you hire this guy pretty much off the street. I mean,
Yeah.
he was literally just an analyst. And I mean, I know he was a former player and pretty much a staple of the organization for that. But still, I mean, he was just an ESPN analyst and you hire him mid-season. It just doesn't really make sense timing-wise. But B, the fact that it's Irsay's like best friend and they're super close, I can understand why people are very upset about it. But I think Saturday's a good option. I think that if it was like April or March right now and the Colts just hired Jeff Saturday, I don't think people would be up in arms about it. I think people would be saying it was a good move.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an underrated signing. And
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like-
Next year, I think it'll take form.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been worse signings. Like, Tim
yeah.
Tebow almost was a tight end.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know it's not the same thing at all, but...
Yeah, the other thing, too, though, about the Colts, and this is what really frustrated me, is that they have two former NFL coaches on their coaching staff right now.
Yeah.
In Gus Bradley and John Fox. And also, if you want to go with the former player, you have Reggie Wayne as your wide receivers coach, who is also an All-Pro and also one of the best Colts players of all time. So why would you not go to coach with experience when you clearly have experienced coaches on your staff?
Yeah, right.
And instead you hire a guy from upper management because he's friends with the owner. Like, that is just pure nepotism. And if the Colts want to tank, that's fine. Put Reggie Wayne in then, who's only coached a year, but at least he has some NFL coaching experience.
Right, yeah. And you have, I mean, John Fox coached Peyton Manning to a Super Bowl. Like, he's not just some scrub.
Yeah, and Gus Bradley helped Jacksonville get to the AFC Championship with Blake freaking Bortles.
Right. Yeah, there's really, I mean, you're right. Like, and that's where the timing comes in. Like, you have all these guys who can just fill in for the season if you don't want to move long term with them. Like, they can just fill in for the season and then you can hire Saturday in the off season and keep them in the same role. So it doesn't really make sense. I agree with you. And it's like, that's something that might not necessarily hurt you on paper, but like internally in the locker room, that's going to hurt you. You know, it just sets a bad mood pretty much for your entire organization.
Yeah, I wonder how those two guys feel. Obviously, like, they're obviously not happy about that.
Yeah,
it's just like,
I don't know. I mean, I feel like for Reggie Wayne, it might be different because he played with Saturday, so they're probably friends, and he's probably just happy for him.
Yeah, but he's like, why not me?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but like also at the same time, I think that he'll understand that probably Fox and Bradley have more of a right to be upset, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't think they are, though. I think that.
I mean, yeah, you said it. He's a staple of the organization. He's a legend in Indy. So, I mean, I feel like if relating it to the Eagles, I feel like if Jason Kelsey.
That's what he is to them.
Yeah, I think if that was the case, I don't think anyone in Philly would care.
No, I would not care.
No one in Philly would care. So
here's the thing: I would see. You say you don't care, but I would care if we had two former NFL coaches on our staff, and it shows Kelsey 5 years future, and he hadn't done any type of coaching.
Yeah,
and that's who we hired.
Yeah,
like, and that if this was a young team, like if this was the Raiders, and they hired like a former player, that's fine because they have a very young coaching staff right now. But the fact you have two guys with over 30 years of NFL experience in your roster and former head coaches, and you completely bypass them, that just wouldn't sit right with me as an organization.
Yeah, I agree.
It kind of reminds me of like the Bruce Arians, Todd Bowles situation.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense, and you're just kind of like, I don't know how to say this, but like picking other guys like when the best option is like right in front of your face.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's got to be some behind the scenes reasons for it that we don't know, but I want to transition to the NBA because Joel Embiid
for sure.
did something that I don't only like Wilt Chamberlain has done.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 blocks. I mean, just an absolute epic performance on all facets. Embiid is an ungodly talent that I don't think the NBA's really ever seen. Because you have guys who have definitely impacted games in their own way at the center position, but a guy like Embiid has just never been around, you know, because Olajuwon was great, footwork and finesse, but he didn't really have the power that Embiid has. But Embiid has the footwork and finesse that Olajuwon has. On top of that, the all-world defense that he plays. And it's just so much easier for a guard on the outside to play defense aggressively when you know that if you get beat, he's going into Embiid in the paint. That's a huge positive, and I think that's an underlying factor of the blocks because we all know that Embiid is a mammoth, and we know that obviously mammoths protect the rim. So, but I think that the underlying factor is that your guards can play very aggressively on the wings. The ironic thing to that is the Sixers don't really do that. The Sixers are very passive on the wings, and frankly, they allow their guys to get very comfortable shots. But we won't get into that because I think we need to stick on the Embiid thing, and we just need to appreciate what Embiid has done and what Embiid is for Philadelphia.
I was watching the JJ Redick podcast when he went on, and he was like spitting like defensive stats at him because he was like he brought up the discussion that he's never like involved in Defensive Player of the Year talks.
Yeah.
And any time he's been on the floor, and this is like independent from who is on with him, that team is a top 4 ranked defense in the league.
Right.
And he himself has been the first ranked defensive player down low in the paint every year except for the last year. He was like 4th.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like an all-worldly defender, and I just think having Ben Simmons play by him for a while, and I'm not saying that he's better at defense than him by any stretch of the imagination, but like you haven't really seen guys like Ben Simmons like be that big and like defend on the perimeter that well, so it kind of like took away from what Joel does because his defense is like what a center like would be playing at their peak ability.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said it, he's like Olajuwon plus.
Yeah, right.
And that is one of the best stat lines like ever in history.
Right, yeah, in any sport, really.
Yeah, like if Jokic did this,
oh yeah,
no one would be talking about anything else for the next month. But I haven't really heard nearly as enough noise about this stat line from Embiid. Like this should be still talked about, and it's still died down already on Tuesday, and it happened on Sunday night. Like, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be talked about everywhere. Yeah, I agree with that.
I saw this crazy stat, or heard on the radio, sorry, that there has only been 5 players to score combined 100 points in 2 games. And Pete just did it. It was Jordan, Kobe, I forget the other player. One was Wilt. Wilt did it 83 times in his career. Insane.
You really don't want to say it, but you really do want to say it. Like, the talent is just so much better now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you imagine what a guy would have to do to dominate the league like that now?
Yeah, right.
That's just how good Wilt was compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
And Aidan, I'm pretty sure the other guy's Dame Lillard. Like, I don't know
You're
it.
right.
It
Yeah.
probably is.
It is,
I
yeah.
know that he has done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how small the list is, and like I agree that definitely the talent Will play wasn't, but that's how good Will was when he played. That he dominated the league like that. But it's also how good Embiid is to put up a number like that when basically nobody's done it in the league except for some of the top players in NBA history.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is just it's amazing.
mhm.
Watching him is amazing.
It is. We're really lucky to see him
Yeah, right.
play. But like, what is a better stat line than this? Like, obviously, Kobe's 81 is better, but
Well, the 100.
yeah,
I think Wilt had a game with 55 rebounds. Or maybe it was Bill Russell had a game with 55 and like 30 blocks.
Yeah.
Like that.
Was playing against lesser talent, but some of the stats he put up are just.
I mean, yeah,
it's
like,
ridiculous. Yeah,
it's
you have
literally
to-
just
you have
like-
to put it in.
yeah, even though it's against trash players, like it's still incredible the numbers that he put up.
Do you
But
think?
yeah, modern day, dude,
Mhm.
that's people may never do that again.
Yeah, probably not.
Mhm.
Do you think? Where do you think this compares? Like up against like Russell Westbrook's 2020 and 21 game?
This is probably better than that, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Because I do think that that game was really impressive, and that's an all-time stat line
Yeah.
too. But I think what Embiid did was more because of what he did defensively too, like the 7 blocks on top of 8 rebounds, 11 assists, and 59 points.
Yeah. I also don't want to feed into it, but like Russell's kind of the player that like he kind of like envisions like, oh, I'm gonna try and get this before he actually does. I don't think Embiid thought he was gonna put up 59.
Right, it just kind of came to
yeah.
him. Yeah, I agree with you.
But 7 blocks,
And that block on Sexton at the end?
Doesn't happen.
it doesn't.
Nah. And he did that against the Jazz, who have been like a really good defensive team to start the season.
Yeah,
Right.
they were like 9-3 prior to that game.
10-3, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the best team. They were the best team in the West.
Yep.
Going into that game.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah, the other thing too is that one of the guys he's going up against is Laurie Markkinen. He's been playing awesome this year.
Yeah, he's not a bad defender at all either.
Yeah, nah.
No. So it's just it was wild to watch, and it was always crazy because I was like watching the game. It just wasn't like it felt like he was playing well, and then they started saying the stats, and it just didn't feel like it for whatever reason. Maybe because it was a close game. Up until he hit like 57, it just didn't set into me. I mean, he also went off in the fourth quarter, so that could be why as well.
Yeah.
I think he scored like 26 or something in the fourth. So even though his stats are great up to that point, that fourth quarter he just elevated his play to will the team to win.
Right.
Yeah, I like you guys know like I like shit on the Sixers all the time, but I think that we could see them make a serious run, not just because of that, but like I feel like guys are forced to step up because Harden's going to be out for like another 3 weeks.
Right, yeah.
And Maxi's been doing it. We've been getting help from guys like Niang. Thibault needs to step up.
Yeah, we need to get it consistent because, like, I feel like it's been super bouncy in terms of who steps up on a certain note. You, like you said, you get Embiid, you get Maxey, but then it's like Harris is there sometimes, Thibault's there sometimes, Niang sometimes, Melton sometimes, Milton even sometimes. So, like, there just needs to be consistent production outside of your top 2 or 3, you know, especially with Harden now, like you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be good for like this stretch that Harden's out for. Guys need to take this opportunity and really run with it to find their role and like get that and build that consistency.
And I want to just touch on Ja Morant really quickly, like playing out of his mind. I saw like before like I came in and set up here, he had a half court shot on the Pelicans.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anything.
And he just had
can't
another
do.
highlight play too. He just
What
had
was it?
another one. There was this inbounds play and he just jumps super high in the air to steal it and then goes down and dunks. Just he's an insane athlete.
Yeah,
It's the health that worries me. I mean, not that he's had anything, but it's that D Rose explosive athleticism that just really scares me.
Yeah, he's like a more athletic D Rose.
Yeah, and you know too, like I've been on Ja Morant for a long time. When he was in college, I was saying, you know, the whole him versus Zion thing was happening, and I was saying that Ja was better. I was a huge D Rose fan back in 2011 too. And ironically, D Rose got hurt against the Sixers, so it was kind of
I don't know, silver lining through that we were going to win the playoff series, but obviously I didn't want to see D-Rose get hurt. I have like that fear embedded in me because of D-Rose that like a guy like John Morant is going to get hurt.
He's way more reckless than Rose ever was.
He's so reckless. Like he
Yeah.
will jump into anyone, and that's what scares me.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing about Zion too. Like he's not as like reckless, but like he's a lot more brute, and he uses his body, but like he bumps into the same people the way Ja does, but like the other guy falls down instead of Ja.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
And like the weight, like he's dropping in weight, but I want to see like him drop another 15 pounds, like to really like have a future in this league and not just fizzle out.
Yeah, because the thing you worry about with the weight is what the strain of that does to the knees, you know. And he already has had knee issues, and now the knee issues will also lead to back issues. So
Yeah.
that's something you really want to look at if you're Zion. If you want longevity. A guy like LeBron, you're around the same height, but LeBron is 20, 30 pounds lighter than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he had to do a lot. Like he actually takes care of his body like no one else.
Yeah, right. The money that he pours into that stuff is insane.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just watching him play has been, and this is why I said Memphis could potentially be contender for the Western Conference.
Yeah.
For the finals, just because of him.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned his recklessness. He was hurt for a stretch last year for a pretty long time, and that worries me too because it shows that he's not one of those guys that's going to stay healthy throughout an entire season if he plays the way that he does. I don't think he's ever going to stop doing that.
Yeah, and he shouldn't
So-
necessarily.
Yeah, I think that, and I hate the idea of load management so much. I was never really a fan of it, but when it comes to a guy like that, not necessarily load management is to take him out of games, but you can limit his minutes in meaningless regular season games just so he's healthy enough for the playoffs.
I think that philosophy should be done more instead of like what the Clippers are doing with Kawhi, because like they're still load managing him, and when he like plays games, he comes off the bench, so it really doesn't make any sense what they're doing because you're not like building him up to like lead them in the postseason if he's not even starting with the ball.
I understand that. Yeah.
And
I just want to say, I don't understand load management in that sense, where it's like, oh, we're going to get you off the bench to play like 50 minutes of the job. No, start them because that's what they're being paid to do is to start. Let them play 25 to 30 minutes and then sit them.
Yeah.
right. And I do want to talk about this because it's really predicted it like in our episode where we were doing early NBA predictions, but Russell Westbrook is having that bounce back season, and he's actually the leader of 3-point percentage on that team.
Oh, really? What's
Yep.
he at right now?
36.2.
Damn.
So that's not great by any stretch of the imagination. Like the Lakers are a train
But
wreck,
it's a huge improvement for him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
and it shows you that like it really wasn't him. Like he wasn't responsible for his down year. It was just team and like how it's constructed. Like around, like you got like
Yeah.
one of the most ball dominant guys ever, and you're taking the ball out of his hands
Yeah.
and trying to make him catch and shoot. Like that's not going to work.
Yeah, and he needed a year probably to adjust into a new role.
Yeah, and
Sort of
him,
that he hasn't been in.
him coming off the bench is like good because that's less time with the guys that like take the ball out of his hand.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers are they're abysmal. I'm glad that Russ is playing that much better this year than last year, but they're a mess. The fact that you only have one more win than the Houston Rockets, who are literally tanking, and Oklahoma City, who is tanked so much that they have draft picks for the next, 15 years in the first round. Multiple draft picks in the first round for the next 15 years. It's just ridiculous. This is the team that went from winning the championship 3 years ago to this. And it's just, I don't know. I would be pissed if I was a Lakers fan, though. It's this is the organization that this is the team that you were able to pull out this year. Oh, we're going to spend all this money, but we're just going to sign some older veterans and hope that the team plays a lot better than they did last year.
There's
That's
no,
a terrible philosophy.
Yep.
there's zero silver lining with that team.
There really isn't.
They're just gonna have to
I disagree. Here's why. The silver lining is Russ is playing so well, you might actually be able to trade him for something now.
That's actually true, but the contract is still really bad.
yeah, like that Buddy Hield and who was it, Miles Turner?
Yeah.
That trade, it still makes no sense, even though he's playing well, because, like, just from a money standpoint.
Oh, Sabonis you're talking about?
No. It was the two guys on the Pacers.
Halliburton and Hield?
It was Turner and someone else.
No, Miles Turner didn't get traded, I don't think.
No, he didn't get traded, but it was trade talks with Turner and someone else for Russell Westbrook.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that still doesn't make, like, any sense to me because, like, the money and, like, the age, like, everything is just backwards.
Yeah, okay.
And, like, the Lakers have, like, no room in negotiations. Like, they're at the mercy of whoever's on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
So, that's why I think there's no silver lining in this, because, like, we said it last episode, like, they're behind, like, so many other teams with this tanking nonsense. Unless they, like, win the draft lottery and get Wembanyama, like, I don't really see, like, what they could do.
Yeah, that's like...
Even if they win the lottery, like, this is an organization that one player's not going to fix everything.
True, and they don't develop young guys.
Old players on this roster. Pat Beverly's 34, LeBron's 37, Russ is 34. Most of these guys are in their upper 20s, and the guys that are below 25 are not great players.
Yeah, this I think it really highlights, like, how bad that organization is run. And Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, they either need to, like, step down or, like, really just do some self-reflecting, because they really drilled, like, a championship winner from 3 years ago into the dirt.
Yeah, right.
Actually,
back
underground.
Yeah, back to where it was before that.
Mm-hmm.
Not even LeBron can save them. No.
This feels a lot like the team that was around in Kobe's last years with the Lakers, where they were just, like, spending a lot of money on guys that weren't going to get them wins, but it was just so, like, Kobe can finish out his career with the Lakers. It just feels like they're doing the same thing with LeBron.
So, but yeah, LeBron isn't retiring this year, so, like, the question is, like, I'm really, like, starting to look forward to trading him. Like, I don't really see what the point of keeping him there much longer is.
Right, especially if they're way out of it in February.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, like, there's a lot of teams that could use him just as, like, even if he's not playing all the time, you can use him as a veteran leader. You can bring in for 25 minutes a game as a starter, and he'll put up good enough numbers that you can still keep him healthy throughout the rest of the year to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But if I was my team, I'd want LeBron playing as much as possible. Dude is a winner.
No, for sure. Just from the financial standpoint of having LeBron on your team will bring fans into the seats.
Yeah, that's what the Lakers want.
Yeah, but they're a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do you guys got anything else?
Not really. Baseball free agency is going to be starting soon. That's something to keep an eye on. I mean, it's already theoretically started, but there's going to be no big news from, I guess, till after Thanksgiving. But there's a lot of rumors about where Justin Turner's going to go, where Xander Bogaerts from the Red Sox is going to go. The Phillies aren't re-signing Segura, so he's going to go somewhere as well, which will be interesting to see where a veteran shortstop second baseman will go. That's really it for me.
Yeah, for me, college basketball is really getting into the swing of things now. Tonight, because we are recording on Tuesday the 15th, tonight is the Champions Classic in Indianapolis between Kentucky, Michigan State, and then Kansas Duke. Michigan State upset Kentucky in the early game, went to double overtime. Kentucky was ranked 4th, Michigan State unranked, so that's an upset. Pretty good game, sounds like. We obviously didn't get to watch, but then obviously the later game is 7 Duke versus number 6 Kansas, so that's going to be obviously blue bloods, high-ranked teams. It's going to be fun.
And I'll just leave it off. World Cup is starting this winter, and it never starts in the winter. I think it's going to be a nice vibe and change up, but everyone's hyping up Team USA. And did you guys see the commercial where it was the kid wishing to Santa, like, I want Team USA to win the World Cup? Yeah. Get another wish, dude. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
I feel like this always happens, too, where they hype up the U.S. team right before.
Yeah.
Their pool games outside of England, everyone thinks it's going to be England, which is crazy. I don't see how that's going to happen. But you're playing Iran and you're playing Wales. You have to win both of those games. I'm sorry, you just have to.
Yeah, Gareth Bale is legit too on Wales, so it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and I feel like one player in a soccer game can change it. You know what I mean?
Huh?
We should be beating all of these rugby countries in soccer. I mean, we just should be.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up right now, but I want to see. I know Egypt's not in it this year, so we won't see Salah in the World Cup.
Ah, that's trash.
Yeah.
Lewandowski's going to be in, though, for Poland. I'm excited for him.
Oh, yeah, he's one of the guys that just does not get talked about. Oh, man, Norway didn't qualify either.
He won Europe Player of the Year, or was it? I forget whether it was like a Player of the World or a Player of Europe. But regardless, he won like a huge award, and he consistently leads Poland past where they ever should be as a soccer country.
Yeah, he's really slept on. Like, he's under the radar. I think he is one Ballon d'Or. He's never won one in his career, which is insane. But I just looked this up. Norway is not going to be in the World Cup either, so that means we won't see Erling Haaland. So that's going to suck, but
The biggest
never
complaint that
won
I've seen
with
about,
him,
well,
though.
one of the biggest complaints about the World Cup being held this late is it's in the middle of the Premier League season, so that a lot of guys are being injured and don't have time to recover for the World Cup. Where when it's in the summer, you're given like a month from when the Premier League season ends to when the World Cup starts. So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool, like, when the weather's cold. I mean, I hope it snows. That would be nice. It's not going to snow in Qatar, though. But
If it snows in Qatar, we have a lot bigger issues than when the World Cup's being played.
yeah. All right. Anyone else got anything?
So for those of you who don't know, I go to LaSalle University. Our men's basketball team right now just beat Queens tonight, so we're 2-1. Our only loss was an 13-point loss to Villanova. So things are looking kind of up here for right now.
I mean, yeah, like, Villanova's a powerhouse, and just losing by, like, 13, that's, like, impressive to me.
They are, but they also lost and upset the Temple, and they also only beat Delaware State by 10. So I don't really think Villanova's that good this season, if I'm going to be honest. But LaSalle's had a winning record in something like 10 years. So just finishing 500 above would be really nice.
Yeah, definitely give us more updates on the future episodes, because I didn't know that they were playing that well up to this point, so.
It'll be an interesting season for sure. So I'll definitely keep updates for that.
Alright, so we'll see you guys next week. We drop episodes every Saturday at 2 p.m. We'll see you next week.